welcome in. Welcome to the channel if you're new. My name's Josh, living life alcohol free. If you guys are here and you're subscribers or members or both, thank you guys so much for being here and supporting the channel. Uh, so, New Year 2026, here we are. How's everybody doing? How was everybody's New Year's Eve? Did you guys drink? Did you not drink? Did you drink, but did you learn something from it? That's the key, that's the goal. Maybe we don't know what 2026 is going to bring. Maybe we don't have a resolution. Maybe we don't know what we're going to do yet. But if we can just not drink, that is step number one. That's a step in the right direction, and that's all that really matters. So if you made it, congratulations. So I went into 2026 not with a lot on my mind. Obviously, not drinking, but I mean this was my sixth New Year as an alcohol-free person, and every year gets easier. Every year gets more rewarding. Every year gets a little bit more, a little easier because I'm not drinking. That's the thing. That like alcohol made everything more complicated. It didn't seem like it in the moment. All those years that I drank, it didn't seem like alcohol made everything complicated or more complicated or worse. It felt like it helped. It felt like, obviously when we have hangovers, that's we know that it's not working. But outside of the hangovers, we probably are in the midst of feeling like alcohol is helping us. It really feels like it gives us a peace of mind. It gives us solace. It helps us cope with things that aren't going our way, and we lean on it. We use alcohol as a way to deal with life. Deal with this new year. But the 4 months leading up to 2026 were just one of those things where 121 days alcohol free, and we make it. And we go into the new year with a fresh mind, a sober mind, a clear mind, and we can move forward and thrive in 2026. So, what did you guys do on New Year's Eve? I want to know what you guys did. Please share with the community. What did you do on New Year's? If you were hungover, let us know in the comments, how you got through it. If you regretted it, if you feel like drinking again, let us know if you learned anything from your drinking session. That's important, is taking away lessons from each drinking session. This Naked Mind called that a data point, where you would drink. You don't necessarily want to keep drinking, but if you are going to drink, you learn something from that binge session. And if you can take something away from that binge session, something positive, but something that was negative in the moment, or the hangover especially, that's where we can grow and we can thrive in our recovery. For me, hiking has been a huge thing. So I went on about a 1.5 mile hike last night in the snow. I don't know if you can see the snow back here, but we got the snowbank. we got we have probably about 4 or 5 inches on the ground right now, just from the last few days. Welcome, Stanley. And so been clearing off snow, but that's really not a big deal. Haven't worked. I've worked one day, I think, in the last 2 weeks. I was supposed to work today, but welcome in, Bill. And welcome in, Serenity. And so, like I was saying in previous videos and previous live streams, when I was off of work, that was typically when I drank a lot more. My drinking would accelerate. I'd start earlier in the day. It would give me an excuse to just stay home and drink, because I didn't have to go drive anywhere. And that was actually what I looked forward to, was not having anything to do, and then being able to just go out, or stay home, drink, and then not have to worry about drinking and driving or going to work. So that was something that brought me, pleasure. But at the same time, I would drink so much and for so long that these benders might last 4, 5, 6 days in a row. and I'd wake up like on that seventh or eighth day regretting how much I've been drinking, and then I would take a day off, maybe take 2 days off. Then I'd forget about all the pain that it caused me, that alcohol was causing me, and I'd start drinking it again. And I would just, go back through that same bender. But typically, when I was off of work, that was when my drinking was at the highest. So a week like this, 6 years ago, I would have been just struggling to get out of bed. And I was thinking about that before I got live here. I've been busy with YouTube. I've been busy with running, like, I got a lot of things to do, like running errands wise. I've got a family, so I've got things I got to do. And I didn't realize that, I mean, my mornings are full. Typically in the afternoon, I would start to wind down. I'll do a little bit of reading and read my book, and then I might take like a 20 or 30 minute power nap. Then I'd start my night routine, which was make dinner, play with the dog, take care of the dog, walk the dog, um, and that kind of thing. And then I'd settle in for the night. When I was drinking, I would try to hurry up and get everything done as fast as I could in the morning, and then I could start drinking like by noontime, by lunchtime, to be honest with you. And even if it was New Year's Day, I would start early, especially because I wasn't working. I work for a company where we don't work holidays, and unless I'm working the next day, the day after New Year's Day, I don't have to deal with much. So I might drink for those 2 days straight, and you know, regret it, of course. Wake up with the hangover, and just not feeling well. But now, so I went on that hike, and like I said, I didn't go into the to 2026 with any huge plans. I plan on continuing my reading. I try to read a book a month, and it's just pleasure reading. It's just reading for pleasure, and it's an escape. It's a way. I found an author in books that I like, and before last year, I wasn't really that into reading. I might read like maybe a couple of books a year, but since I made a resolution 2 years ago to read the whole Bible, I got through the whole Bible in 2024, and then in 2025, I wanted to continue on reading, but I didn't want to read the Bible again. But I continued reading Scripture 10 or 15 minutes a day. But now I started to 2025. The resolution was to read a book a month, and I got through, I think, like 16. So I exceeded that. I exceeded the can you turn the radio on, please? um sure, in a moment. But yeah, I exceeded that goal, and that's what it's like when we don't drink. We can make a goal, execute that goal, and then we might exceed it. And that's just part of the growth in our recovery, is being able to not only get rid of the alcohol ritual, the daily ritual of drinking, but replace that ritual with things that are healthy, things that can bring us true, authentic joy. And then we can execute that, but then exceed our expectations. And then we carry that over to the next year. And it's amazing the amount of reward we get from doing that. So I didn't have, like I said, I know even these last 6 years, I didn't go into the new year planning on anything much, but the thoughts come to me organically, and they started coming to me on New Year's Eve. I made cinnamon roll pancakes, and I'm not much of a cook or a baker. I like doing it every now and then, like making some brownies or something. I do make dinners every now and then, but I don't typically make like big full blown from scratch like dinners or bake things like that. So when I made those things, I thought, you know what? This is enjoyable, and not only that, but I can grow in that. Now, part of that is I've got, like I said, I haven't worked much in the last 2 weeks, so I've got all this extra time. So it feels good to take that extra time to do that when I'm at work or when I'm bogged down with work. I don't necessarily feel like cooking, you know what I mean, or baking something. Uh, Something simple is much easier, much, it takes something off of my plate, so to speak, where I don't have to worry about it. Um, but right now, that's what I'm doing. And then I also started to organize yesterday. I started small. I started in my room. I started with my nightstand and my dresser and clear stuff out. I got rid of a bunch of clutter. I spent like 2 hours doing that yesterday morning into the afternoon. And when I was done with it, I felt better. You know what I mean? Like it just feels better to get rid of stuff, to feel more organized, to know that when you go to reach for something, it's there. And hey, thanks for subscribing, Stanley. And you said your name's Bill, so thank you so much. And as far as moderator goes, Nora, I don't need a moderator yet, but I may in the future, so keep that in mind. But thank you so much for tuning in this morning. I really appreciate it. We're talking about our New Year's resolutions, if we have any. We're talking about if we're alcohol free or if we can stay alcohol free, if that's our goal in 2026. Maybe you didn't drink, but you're still struggling in your sobriety. Maybe you are thinking about becoming alcohol free, and that's a huge thing. Just having that on your radar is important because that's where it starts. It starts with that first idea of, is alcohol really benefiting me? Is alcohol really helping me with my life? Is it helping me cope? Is it helping me deal with the tough things that I have to deal with in life? Yeah, maybe it's a small escape. Maybe it helps for a short period of time, but in the long run, we figure out and we find out that it really isn't helping us. In fact, it's holding us back, and it's just another thing to have to think about. How much we're going to drink, what we're going to drink, how much can I spend on drinking, how much money can I spend, how much time can I spend on it? Um, how am I going to feel in the morning after I drink? All those things, they go away when we quit drinking. But it's just starting out with the idea and really questioning um, the role that alcohol plays in our life. That's the first step. I started thinking about it around 2016, 2017, and I really is one of the reasons was because I lost my job. Another reason was because a couple months later a childhood friend of mine died, and I found out a week or two later, maybe a few weeks later, that he drank himself to death. And he was only 37, 38. And so when that happened, I really started to question the role that alcohol was playing in my life. And that was the first step. That didn't mean that it went away. In fact, after I heard about that news, I heard about that news on the day of one of my daughters graduating from high school, and it was her high school graduation party at our house, and we were there. We were at the store picking up some extra food and drinks, and I ended up drinking, I think, probably like 18 beers that day, and from like maybe noon or 1 o'clock on all day until like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So I mean, if you take it by hour, I mean it was like one or two an hour, but at the same time I was eating and I was drinking water and that kind of thing, and so it wasn't a total blackout mess. But yeah, waking up after drinking that much, you start to you're gonna question your drinking, right? I still was able to function. I took that as a badge of being proud of that I could drink that much and still function. I think we do that. We use it as a badge of honor that we can drink that much and function. And maybe a lot to you is a six pack or like 7 or 8 or 9 beers. But in any case, if you're questioning alcohol, that's the first start. So I started questioning my drinking around that time, and it wasn't. It took 3 years, and then the pandemic happening for me to really, for my drinking to escalate to a point where I needed to do something about it, and that's when I did something about it in 2020. So I was in that period of flux for a good 3 years before I was able to quit. So, but it started with an idea, and then it really accelerated in 2020 because of the pandemic. I watched the cans and the bottles accumulate in my garage, and I just thought, you know what, that's going into my body. um, I got to do something about that. And because we couldn't take the cans and bottles back to the recycling center here in Michigan, so I had like 6, 7 bags of cans and bottles full of alcohol from my weeks of drinking. Like the first 3 weeks, I already had like maybe 6 bags. I started throwing the bags in the regular recycling. Just forget about the money. I just don't want to see that. I didn't want to see that accumulating anymore in my garage because it reminded me of just how much I was drinking. And that was painful. I mean, it was painful just thinking about it, let alone doing it. And that's kind of what we do. We sweep it under the rug. We don't want to even think about our problems with alcohol. We just want to sweep it under the rug. Maybe, we sweep the things under the rug, not alcohol related, just the things that we don't want to deal with. We don't want to face it. So we just drink that away, and we just wish that it would go away. So we sweep it under the rug, and maybe it's under the rug for years. Maybe it's under the rug for a decade or two. You know what I mean? Like some of my ruminations were from when I was in high school when I was drinking. And, you know, I mean, I didn't want to think about that stuff anymore. The what ifs, the regrets, but they popped into my head basically every day, multiple times a day. And, drinking quieted that. But then also at the same time, when I quit drinking, I recognized that the drinking was keeping me in those ruminations, that the drinking was adding to my list of regrets. It was adding to my misery. And I didn't realize it when I was in my addiction. I think we do such a good job at lying to ourselves when we're addicted. And that's what I was doing. So, Barry, I want to get to a couple of these uh, comments. God bless anyone reading this. Let you walk now forward in the Lord's love, spread love, and don your armor and sword for the Lord. Let you not stray into the darkness, but be brought to light. Amen to that, Barry. And yeah, that's awesome. I put a post uh, on the community. It was a post. It was a poll. What are you most looking forward to in 2026? And there was 4 selections. A lot of us, we want to eat healthier or exercise more. Those are usually the big ones. But for people that drink a lot, it's cutting back or quitting alcohol, and then maybe it's growing in your faith. And actually, those were the two. There was only 4 votes when I looked last night. I haven't looked this morning, but it looked like two votes, like 50-50. So quitting alcohol or being alcohol free and growing in your faith. And so, Barry, I'm glad that you brought that up because that was important. That's been important for me. My faith and my sobriety go hand in hand. But it wasn't like that for the first few years of my being alcohol free. I wasn't really able yet to really grow in my faith. It wasn't even on my radar, honestly, yet. It didn't. It wasn't on my radar until I was like healing from a lot of other issues that I had to fix in order to get to that step. But I always gave God the credit and the glory for my sobriety because I begged, and I surrendered. a couple weeks before I quit drinking. And that was a turning point. That was a huge moment in my life when I was able to surrender that I couldn't control my drinking anymore and I needed help and I needed guidance. And I begged, and that prayer was answered. I learned later that, begging isn't where we want to end up with our praying. And I learned that through my sobriety. And then I learned that by growing through my faith, that we can we can shield up every day and pray for strength. We can pray for, um, answers in our life, things that we need to do on a daily basis, and just give me the strength to do that. And those prayers are answered every day. And so I don't get to a point where I need to beg, you know what I mean? And I think that's a goal, is getting to a point where we don't feel like we need to um, beg for things. But at any rate, welcome, Joshua, and good morning. And for me, the surrender looked like it was an ugly cry. It was getting down on my knees and just saying, I can't do this. My way isn't working anymore. And that's the thing. Like, God gives us the rope to make our own choices. I learned that through my faith. I learned that by being alcohol free for 3 years or so, 2.5, 3 years, when I finally was able to start going to church, uh, meeting my pastor, having discussions with the church congregation and letting them know about my issues with alcohol in the past, and being open and being honest about that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was just, I surrendered, and it looked like, um, giving God the room to make those changes, like help me make those changes in my life, because my way wasn't working anymore. And I acknowledged that. I was able to admit that, and I was glad that I was able to make the choices for all those years that I did. And I was, because I've never liked to be tied up into obligations. I've never been one for like institutions. I've never been one to be like, following the common, thinking, the group thinking. I've never been one into like going along with what everybody else is doing. I've never been that way. And so the idea of conforming was always tough for me. So I always had this battle going on between my faith and my drinking, and the drinking always won out. Um, and like I made that video last week that planned binge drinking is a sin, and I knew that it would be somewhat controversial. I only had one person comment, Owen, and saying that drinking's not a sin, and I forget what he said it was, but not a sin. Um, but I mean, the idea just it was on my mind for years that that my potential binge drinking was sinful. I don't necessarily believe that like drinking is a sin, or even like getting drunk. I mean, I know that in the Bible that you're not supposed to get drunk or be a drunkard. But I just like, there's things that I did and said while I was intoxicated that was the most alarming to me. And if I wasn't drinking, I was a totally different person, and I knew it. And so when I was like sober for a day or two, or sometimes I would drink and then not drink the next day, or maybe not drink for half the day, but I felt good. And or I wouldn't drink that day, and I wake up the next day not drinking the night before, and I felt great. Those were the moments that I would hang on to for years and years, that I knew that being sober felt better, but I just wasn't at a point yet where I was able to do anything about it. I didn't know what to, like AA didn't work for me. I didn't really, like I said, I never really liked groupthink or admitting that I was an addict or alcoholic or a slave to my addiction or all these things. So like that part of conforming to that and doing the 12 steps and stuff like that, it didn't jive with me. So that never worked for me. But in the internet age, and then learning that, hey, there's like a million other things out there, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, and I found one that worked for me, This Naked Mind, the book by Annie Grace, and then the community. It was, I got on there, I didn't have to admit anything. I just wanted a alcohol free life. I wanted to not drink, and I needed a group of people. I needed camaraderie. I needed people that, didn't look down, and I didn't want to look down on myself either. So all those things played a role in my ability to not drink anymore. Like I just, it, I, some people on this forum have said like you can't stay alcohol free or sober or whatever you want to call it unless you admit that you're an alcoholic. And not a lot of people. I mean, there was a couple people, at least two or three, that said that. And the one video that I got, A Day in the Life of an Alcoholic, or an Alcoholic's Day, the one that got, it's got almost 100,000 views so far. It's the most watched video that I've got. And even that video didn't even take off right away. It took like 5 months for it, and then all of a sudden it just jumped, and it went from like 50 views to like 500 in a day, and then I got like 500 or 1,000 a day for like a month or two, like a couple months. I don't know how or why the algorithm pumped that thing out like that, and why it didn't like do anything right off the bat. But I'm grateful that it happened because it got me monetized on here, and that was not my main goal, but it was a goal. I got on here because I had a calling. It was a calling to help people get and stay sober, and grow in our faith as well. But like I kind of just started focusing on sobriety around that time, and but yeah, these are the things that I wasn't able to do as a drinker, and I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to be able to get to where I am in this channel and have community like with you guys here. So let's get to more of these. Welcome in, Jim. Says I have a friend going through that with alcohol. Well, I'm glad that you're here because it's helpful to, even if we're not going through issues with alcohol, it's helpful to be able to do that and learn about that to help them, because we need support from those in our life, loved ones and friends and family. And even though they don't completely understand addiction or have experienced it themselves, it's good to have someone that is on your side and can understand that. So I'm glad that you're here. Um, let's see. Yes, I do. I do know Jesus as Lord and friend, 100%. Amen. Uh, alcohol. Jim says alcohol is not a sin, but gluttony of alcohol is. Yeah, I can go along with that. Um, let's see. So many more things to help. Also, so many more things to get addicted to, for sure. Josh, do you go by Josh or Joshua? And okay, Ryan says I drink to keep the pain away. And hey, I mean that's a lot of us drink to relieve stress, to numb pain, um, to cope. So just the fact that you're able to admit that is a huge thing. Like I said, I didn't plan on really ever quitting alcohol. I drank for 27 years. I would have those issues, those instances where I would uh, drink too much, have a hangover, throw up, the throw up kind of hangover. You know, the one that you can't go to work, you can't get out of bed, those hangovers. And then I would stop for like 3, 4 days a week, but then I'd forget about all the problems that alcohol was causing me, all the bad things. They call that fading effect bias, FAB, and it's an important aspect of addiction because once we a FAB can kick in like a week later, it can kick in a month later or a year later. You don't know when it's going to kick in. And if you're not doing the work to stay sober and to better yourself, when that FAB kicks in and you start to glorify alcohol, you start to praise it, to give it credit, to romanticize a drinking session, like all the good things that alcohol brought you, that is when we can get in trouble and we can relapse. We can slip or we can relapse or both. You know, just we slip back into um, those those thinking patterns, and then we just we drink, and that So like I said, I got a week at a time for 27 years. I never had more than that. At 19, I did have a month away from it because I got a DUI, and I've made a video about that. I quit smoking weed and I quit drinking for 30 days, and I was afraid I was going to get tested. So, but after 30 days, I drank. I went back into drinking, uh, and I don't really want to get too far into depth about that, but um, that was an issue, and but I didn't go back to weed, and I never really went. I mean, I went back to it later on down the line, but not to a point where I felt good using it anymore. So, but yeah, the drinking. So I got back into it, and that was the longest I had went since 19. So from 19 to 42, the longest I went without alcohol was a week. But when I started to read on This Naked Mind, all these people that were like weeks and months and years alcohol free and loving life, um, I started to recognize that maybe I don't want to go back because I wanted to be a moderate drinker, like have one or two, maybe 3 or 4, whatever on an occasion, but like not crave alcohol the way that I was. Just be a regular drinker. That was my goal. That's why I picked up the book, because it was This Naked Mind, How to Control Alcohol, and or How to Control Your Drinking, and that appealed to me because that's when I got to that point in 2020. I really just I wanted to be able to have a drink or two. But after I got over that big urge to drink on day like 8 or 9, and I got to my longest that I'd been alcohol free, 10 days, I felt better. And then I got to 2 weeks, then I got to 30 days. And then I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to keep going with this. Like, I don't crave it like I was. I don't feel like I need it. Yeah, I was still having issues with ruminations, regrets, especially with my behavior while I was drinking in those final weeks. Uh, but those were just feelings. They weren't urges to drink. I did have some strong urges, but I was able to get through those. Uh, they got less and less frequent as the weeks went on. And after about 2.5, 3 months, like I didn't have those strong urges anymore to drink. So that's kind of how I got through it. Um, Ryan says I've had the most fucked up 4 years of my life. I'm surprised I'm here. Well, I'm glad that you're here, and what a blessing it is. Um, and I'm glad that you're, considering the drinking and just considering, what it's doing. Uh, Good morning, B Wood, and Happy New Year. So, yeah, that's where we're at. Get sober, stay sober. Getting sober is one thing. but then staying sober is another thing, and they're two separate things, but they work in tandem, and that's why I called this "Get Sober, Stay Sober." We're in the new year now. It's there's no better time than to make those resolutions, uh, whether that's quit drinking or cut back on your drinking. Maybe it's going to take some time to confront the things that have been on your mind, but you haven't wanted to address them for fear that it's embarrassing, or for fear that it's painful, it's traumatizing. Some of us have traumatic issues that we just don't want to think about it. Um, I wouldn't say that I had big trauma from my childhood or even adulthood. Um, Certainly, there were things there um, that were that I ruminated about and that I worried that I'd have to confront one day. Um, and the prospect of that was scary. And I think that that's where a lot of us get into trouble. We think, first of all, we think life without alcohol is going to be boring, which is a fallacy. It's something we make up in our minds. We can't see that while we're drinking. Another thing, though, is that we're afraid that we're going to have to deal with life without that crutch of alcohol. And that's true. That's a truth. And that is a scary prospect. Um, but that's what community is for. That's what therapy can be for, if you're into that. That's what having someone that you can share your daily uh, thoughts with, even if it's just like one person, like for me, it was my wife. I talked to her when I was having those urges to drink or having those vulnerable ruminations, or a lot of stuff was at the present moment stuff that um, boundaries was an issue for me. That wasn't something that was old. That was new. There was something that I wasn't able to form healthy boundaries with people, and I didn't notice that until like months into my sobriety. Even I think it was even like a year or two that I started to be able to work on that. And but that's before I had a lot of other things I had to work on before I even got to that point. So a lot of the stuff that I was working on wasn't even on my radar yet. It's just like it's steps. And so since I drank for 27 years and I was a binge drinker for basically that entire time, um, I kind of knew that it was going to take some months of being completely alcohol free to feel better. I didn't really think it was going to take years. Honestly, I was kind of disappointed that it was taking years. Um, but it is what it is. Like, once alcohol becomes not really important anymore after a month or two or three, um, once I got to a year, I did have some triggering feelings around the 1 year mark. I was kind of concerned about um, what I would do, what I celebrate. I was never really into celebrations, even like all my years as a drinker. I certainly wasn't into celebrating myself. So I kind of was like, I feel like I should celebrate this, but at the same time, I don't want to make a big deal about it because I don't want to jinx it. So I got back into therapy for maybe a couple of visits just to go in and talk about it. But after like two visits, I thought, you know what? I don't need this. This is just stressing me out even more. And part of that was just because I felt like I ran its course with that therapist. So I didn't really feel like I wanted to be there or needed to be there. But when I got around year two, I had the same feelings cropping up. But at this time, uh, there was things that I wanted to work on with a different therapist, somebody who could relate to my family dynamic, which a lot of people cannot relate to. Um, so I needed a different therapist, and I found one that was good. And luckily for me, it was like on the first try. I did share with them like this is what I'm looking for, and they placed me with this person and this therapist, and so it wasn't I wasn't just going in wishing and hoping, but she ended up being great. I had her for about 3 months, and I touched base with her like every couple weeks, and for those 3 months, and I went back into my past a little bit towards the end of that because I wanted to work on those ruminations that I was having. I hated having thoughts and ruminations about things that happened um, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Um, so I spent a little bit of time practicing some CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, and it actually worked. I confronted those thoughts and those ruminations, and since then it's been better. So yeah, I mean, I'm at a point now where I'm grateful, but at the same time, I'm not like, you know, overly um, confident that it's always going to be this way. But like, I don't have to work on that stuff anymore. Like, I have new things I can grow in every new year, and that's what I do, and that's what I've done the last couple years. So, um, but wherever you are, let's see. Downturn Davy, welcome in. I have Downs, and I had my right arm amputated. Always feel like a stranger when I pull. Oh, come on. All right. Usually I read through these first, but all right. B Wood, I didn't think of myself as an alcoholic until I started going to AA meetings as a support to my girlfriend. And after 9 months of hearing similar stories to my life, it clicked. Now I'm 174 days sober. Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations on 174 days. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad AA works. I could see it working for myself at some point if that's all if that's all I had. But uh, I found This Naked Mind, and that one was what clicked for me. But I condone or advocate any alcohol-free support group, whatever works for you and clicks, and it clicked for you. So that's awesome. Jason, welcome. Uh, I went MIA for a few and deleted all my social media. I'm back. I'm proud to say I'm still alcohol free, and this holiday season was actually easy to say. That's awesome, Jason. Well, congratulations. Welcome back. I was wondering about you, um, but I'm glad that you're back, and alcohol free is that's even better. So, uh, yep, he got me there, Tempt. It's been a while since I read through a whole one and got jobbed like that. But yeah, good one on there. Um, Kurt Russell, okay, I like that. I can go along with that. Uh, let's see here. Okay, we got some other comments here. Yeah, I get it, Jason. I had my issues with the social media aspect, especially the first, let's see, the first year of being alcohol free, and then even like year two, there were times when I would think I'm spending way too much time on Facebook. Uh, let's see, not so much YouTube at the time, but certainly Facebook, and then it started to become like This Naked Mind. I was on there a couple hours a day, 2 3 hours sometimes, and I thought, I mean, it's great that I have that group, and it's, I mean, it's positive that I'm posting there and reading posts about sobriety and being alcohol free, but at the same time, I felt like I was spending too much time on that, so I cut back on that. I did cut it out completely for a while, um, partly because some drama went down at that time, and I wasn't able to. Um, I didn't really want to contribute to it, so I stepped back, and I'm glad that I did. Um, all right, so we're gonna wrap this up today. I'm glad that you guys are here. Happy New Year. Um, Probably gonna make a video tomorrow for Sunday, and so stay tuned for that. And I wish you guys well on your New Year's resolutions, and you're staying alcohol free. And keep the faith. You got this, and we got you.